Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, viewers, friends, associates, we're relatives. We're just so glad that you are joining us. And when you consider, Jackie, the number of chats that we have recorded, this is number 249. Think of the opportunities our friends and podcast viewers have had to learn about the 1950s.
Very true. Hello, everyone. Please cast your eyes to the bottom of the screen where you see that purple banner. It says www.whilethewindmillwatch.com. That is a location where we would like you to visit. Look in the upper corner of your screen and you see the book that promoted and kicked off the 1950s Fun Chat. It's called While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s. So at this site, you'll also see something more besides things about the book, but you'll see all previous 1950s Fun Chats. And there are days and days of viewing if you care to do that. But on with today.
Yes.
The state of North Dakota has experienced several oil booms in its history. Our guest, Andrea Collin, will share some memories of life in northwestern North Dakota in the Williston area in the early years of oil discovery in the 1950s, along with some observations about the area today. She'll also touch on the evolution of the gift of her writing ability. Andrea was born and raised in Williston, North Dakota, in a family of 4 children. She was the middle sister and had a brother 5 years younger. School, music, and church were the center of her life. After studying journalism at the University of North Dakota, she was a staff writer for the Grand Forks Herald and later worked on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. before returning to North Dakota. Now, her adult life has revolved around several rewarding writing, editing, and teaching jobs. She's interested in travel experiences, and she has raised 3 daughters and enjoying 5 grandchildren. Andrea and her husband, Rick Collin, manage a small publishing company and website, dakotabooknet.com, which sells regional books. Andrea assists individuals in writing, editing, and selling their books. A blog and podcast are soon to be launched. Well, we will like to welcome you, Andrea, to the 1950s Fun Chat.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. So now we'll go back to the mid-50s. It was a time of change in northwestern North Dakota with the discovery of oil in Williams County in 1951. So would you please give us an idea of what were some of the changes that you observed or lived?
Of course, I was born in 1954 and oil was discovered in 1951. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know life before that, I guess. Just kind of grew up in a very interesting time in Williston. My mother had lived there since she was 4 years old, since 1934. And so, and my dad grew up in Wild Rose, 50 miles north and east of Williston. So they were familiar with the area. So they saw the changes more profoundly than I did. However, Williston was a town of 7,500 people at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a regional retail hub, for northwestern North Dakota already. And so it was kind of one of the main towns in northwestern North Dakota. But for many years, people thought there would be oil. People knew there was oil underneath in the Williston Basin, just kind of a bowl-shaped geographic formation, that they knew there was oil there. The trick was how to get it, so there were some very intrepid petroleum geologists who kept going and kept trying. And finally, in April of 1951, oil was discovered just a little ways north of Williston, near Tioga. And so that brought a lot of people to northwestern North Dakota who otherwise would not have gone there. It was mainly an agriculture, community. And so an awful lot of interesting people came into Williston.
Tell us, were these people mostly from out of state then?
Yes, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Utah, just very interesting people. And my family, we moved into a little house. Well, I don't know exactly when we did it, but when it was in the mid 50s, and there were several new developments of homes that were built to accommodate these oil workers. Amarada Petroleum was the company that had discovered the oil. So a lot of people from there came to work in their offices. Of course, you had the oil workers that had to come too. So several new developments were built, and we moved into a house kind of north and east of like Main Street in a new development. Right across the street was a school called Rickard School, and up and down the street were many young families with children our age from these different parts of the state. So it was very, very interesting to grow up.
Did many of those families end up staying there then?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some came and went, with work, but there are today, oh gosh, 15, 20 prominent Williston families that came to Williston in the 1950s and still have their roots there, still children. Good. So many of them stayed. Others, came and went. But, oh gosh, we, play with those kids and had they were a lot of fun. And my mom talks about one of the young mothers that she knew. My older sister had braided hair, and she said to her, "Oh, do you plait her hair yourself?" And like my mom said, I didn't know what she was talking about. Like, oh, you mean braid? It's like
yes. So is the term plait and plaiting hair, is that a Southern term? Or
well, yeah, I think it is. Yeah. But anyway, it was like, oh gosh, it's like different customs, different traditions. But
different words.
Really cool, yeah. And so then some of those kids we went all through high school with, just like good folks. And when we were living in our little house, it was 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, very small, had a little fenced backyard. But then there were 3 of us girls sharing a bedroom. And then my little brother came along in 1959. So my folks bought some land just about a block or so north of where we lived and started building a house. And we moved in late 1959. Yeah. But this was a bigger house. It was a nice, large lot. It was a split level house and, really nice, real exciting. And my dad paid $30,000 for that house. Mm-hmm. People said to him, "You are nuts. You are just crazy to spend that much money on a house." He just had a sense it was the right time to do it, and so he did. And one very vivid memory I have was in 1959. I was 5 years old, and we were. There wasn't public kindergarten, but there was private kindergarten. And our church, the Lutheran Church on Main Street, had a private kindergarten. So one hot, I believe it was August afternoon, my mom and my one of my friends, Beth Stenjum, and her mother, Addie, we just had a little outing where we dressed up and we went to the church to register for kindergarten. This was just kindergarten registration. So we went there, and then after we were done with that, we went to Krause Drug, which was in downtown Williston, and had a fancy drink, from the soda fountain.
Yeah.
Did you wear white gloves when you did when
We
you
did,
went?
no, but we did dress up a little bit, But as we were sitting in Krause Drug, this was 3 p.m. or so, and it was a hot, muggy day, just kind of one of those unsettled days on the plains, and all of a sudden this horrific dust storm came blowing through. The town, downtown just turned brown, dark for a while, while this dust storm blew through with tumbleweeds and all,
Oh my goodness.
And we're just like, wow. And then my mother said, oh no, I think today was the day they were going to paint our house white.
Oh.
And it was. And
Oh dear.
whoops. So once the storm, ended, we all, headed out and drove up, and the house was just brown. It was fresh white paint covered in dirt.
Oh.
So it had to, I believe the builders had to sand all the dirt off. And then it again. So
that's memorable.
Yes. Very, very visible. Yeah, it was a big deal. So just a lot of fun memories. I was just thinking about in 1962, my dad went to Minot, which was the next bigger city, that and there was a Volkswagen dealer that had just started selling cars. So he came driving home one day in this 1963, I think, red Volkswagen. Big deal. We were just
the bug.
The little bug, the little beetle. Yeah. Yep. Oh my goodness.
And your whole family fit in that okay?
Yes, we did. We did. Because my dad would drive, my mom would be in front, and she'd hold my little brother in her lap, and then we 3 girls would be in the back seat. So we, and I think my dad would take it to work, and then my mom, they had another car, like a station wagon, so I could have one. But, anyway, but we'd often hop in the car on a summer night and drive to the A&W root beer stand and get root beer floats, and then have our little treat, and then drive back home again in the Volkswagen.
Did your dad work for the oil industry in any way?
My dad was a lawyer. He started practicing law in 1947. And so he got there kind of just on the cusp of the oil discovery. Yeah. So he practiced law there for 50 plus years, and he always said he had a general law practice, but one of his very big specialties was oil and gas, oil and gas law, especially working with landowners, mineral rights.
Yeah, mineral rights.
So just consider how that changed our lives. Well, it gave some steady work to my dad and his law.
Right. Yes. You have mentioned some ways that the oil boom has affected your family. That anything more you might want to say?
Oh, I don't know about that. I can't think of. That was just our life. It was our life. So
sure.
It was just surrounded by a lot of really interesting people. And one thing I do remember that's very vivid is in 1964, my family hopped in our big station wagon and we drove to New York City and went to the World's Fair.
Oh, you did?
Yes. When my dad was growing up, he went to the Chicago World's Fair. I'm not quite sure what year that was, but he vividly remembers being there with his family. So he wanted us to go to a World's Fair. So we drove our station wagon out there and camped along the way, pulled a camper, one of those little pop-up campers. And I remember we drove into New York City pulling a camper, looking for a hotel to stay at, and made quite a spectacle of ourselves. But we were always laughing about that because it's like Well, if you have a North Dakota license plate, people will just kind of stay out of your way because
Oh, okay.
you're that year, you don't know what you're doing.
Andrea, what was the most memorable part for you as a little girl about the World's Fair?
Well, I do remember very vividly the Disney, the Disney exhibit, where they debuted the It's a Small World.
Sure.
Where you'd get in a little boat
Mm-hmm.
and it would take you around and have all these little groups of kids singing from different countries, singing It's a Small World after.
Yeah. They still have it there.
I know. That's when where it debuted, and it was just, just very memorable. And then I also remember, I think it was the AT&T or Bell Telephone or something, one of their big exhibits. They showed the phone of the future where you could talk, you could see video. And it's like,
Yes.
dial the number and the person comes up on a screen and you can talk to them.
Who would have ever thought, huh?
And I remember thinking, what a dumb idea. I mean, if someone calls you and you're in your pajamas or something, it doesn't sound like something very smart.
So that brings to mind, did you ever have the little newspaper Weekly Reader
yes.
in school?
Yeah.
Okay, when I was in second grade, that is one of the things I remember, seeing a picture of that contraption.
Oh,
yeah. It was 1954 when they showed.
Oh, yeah, and just weird. This is just can't quite comprehend it, but here we are.
Here we are, and beyond.
Many times there's the introduction of new foods at a World's Fair. Do you recall anything?
I can't say. Yeah, I can't say. But yeah, it was just very memorable. We camped, along the way, and just super trip.
Mm-hmm.
Another memory I have of Williston, that's kind of a source of pride for Williston, is we had a big swimming pool, Harmon Park swimming pool. It was an outdoor pool every summer. That's what you did. You just went swimming.
Mm-hmm.
And, have lunch at noon, and then you had to wait an hour because you couldn't go swimming till hour after lunch. Then you'd go and you'd have to have a buddy with you, and just check your clothes in a little basket, and that was a real big deal to go. My younger sister was on the swim team, and that was a big deal. And then often at night when my dad would come home from work, he would put on a suit and take us kids swimming.
Oh,
family swim, and he would leave my mom behind, so let her have a little break.
Did he teach you how to swim?
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. Of course, the interesting story about Williston and swimming is that Dr. Bud Hagen was a Williston, a young doctor who had come to practice in Williston, and he was he always felt so bad when little kids drowned. It's like kids with no lessons or anything. So he, at a pretty early age, got on the park board and started pushing for these things like swimming lessons and all of that. And in late 60s, they built Williston got their first indoor swimming pool. Even in North Dakota, close tied to a school, and it was connected to Williston High School. So you'd walk through a little tunnel and get there. But part of the school curriculum was swimming lessons. So
good.
We had to have swimming lessons. Yeah. The interesting thing about the Hagen family is all those kids learned how to swim, including Katie Hagen, who went on to swim competitively in, I believe, the University of New Mexico, and then moved to the Bethesda, Maryland area where she spent most of her life. And she is the mother of Katie Ledecky.
Oh, no. Oh, that's right. Yes. And Katie Ledecky was up in Williston signing books last year.
That's right. Yes.
That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that influence, early influence of her father, and insisting that Well, every kid in their family had to be on the swim team, whether they liked it or not, and that interest in swimming and all that, has paid off in spades in their family, with Katie being
I guess.
most decorated female Olympian. I think she's won about 9 gold medals and 14 total or something. So anyway,
So
that's a great.
where did they compete with Williston competed in Minot and Bismarck, or what?
Yeah, there wasn't much of a collegiate program. They were clubs though.
Oh, right. Okay.
Even before the indoor pool, there was a nice competitive swim team in the summer where they'd go to meets. They'd go to Dickinson and Minot and Grand Forks.
Yeah. Okay.
Swim with the other kids.
Yeah.
Was it usually parents who drove you, or were you on a bus?
Yeah. I was never on the team, but my younger sister was, and they'd go to meets, and some parents would drive them, or I think sometimes they had buses. So so that was a big thing in Williston.
Yeah.
And another really big thing was band day music. Band music was a very big deal in Williston. Okay. And the first band day was held in 1927. So next year is a 100th band day.
Amazing.
Already preparing for it. But it was always, I don't know if it always was, but it was always in May. And it got kind of settled in as being Mother's Day weekend. Mother's Day weekend, you had, band day on Saturday. And we could start band, and we all did, when we were in 4th grade, I think it was. Okay. And 4th grade on, we all marched. We all marched in every parade. And we'd have, dark pants and a white shirt, and be carrying our instruments and playing. There was a certain song the 4th graders played, and then the 5th graders had another song, and you could just almost predict, because it was the same song. And then they'd bring in guest bands, like a lot from Canada, like Regina and Saskatoon would bring in their big bands, and it was a very big deal, and it has continued on all these years. And
who was the inspiration behind the start and the promotion of the kids learning to play band and just the promotion of the band?
I don't know early on, but there was a band director named Virgil Severson, who was a longtime band director. He was there when I was there, and went on for several years after that. And so he was probably there 40, 50 years. Okay. He was a big inspiration. But they also had an American Legion drum and bugle corps.
Oh my!
Where they were very active, where they would go marching, like they'd go to big, parades in New York City. I think they went to the New York City World's Fair, and I don't know. So it was a really big band. And and they've kept that going all these years. And so I remember close to band day in early May, we'd be at home and we'd hear the drums, the drums practicing, and it would be like early in the morning or right after school, and we'd get on our bikes and ride down the street, try to find the band. It was so exciting. They're marching,
So what instrument did you play?
I started out with trumpet. And when I got into, I think it was junior high, 7th or 8th grade, my director wanted me to switch to tuba.
Oh, man.
Heavy.
Didn't want to. But he was kind of stern with me, and he said, "You've got the right lips for a tuba."
Okay.
I don't think any 7th or 8th grade girl really needs to hear that. It's not a source of real pride. It's like,
but how heavy that was to march.
They did have fiberglass ones,
that's good.
Yeah. And then when I was in high school, there was a group of people who organized a band trip to Norway for high school kids. It was for something like the 900th anniversary of the city of Bergen, and there was a big parade that they just felt like, we're a very Norwegian, Scandinavian area that some North Dakota kids should march in that parade. So we flew to Norway and Bergen and marched in this big, huge parade.
What a
Wow.
wonderful opportunity. So music just can
Yeah.
continue your entire life and take you worldly
Yeah,
places.
I had great experiences. So
Yeah.
anyways.
Were there baton twirlers in your bands?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so someone had to teach that then, didn't they?
Yeah. It was a big deal. So yeah, so band was a real big deal. So
Yeah. Huh.
yeah, those are just some of my real fond Williston.
Oh, that's
those
great.
years.
I'd like to have you think about advantages and disadvantages of the sudden changes in the community as a result of this oil boom. Maybe you can
Yeah,
parcel them out.
like you said, I was young and I wasn't feeling the effects, but there were booms and busts,
Mm-hmm.
so the city would, hustle and, build developments, and then the people would leave, and, there would be things like that. But we did have good medical services there because of that, better hospitals, better medical services. And yeah, just a good, interesting bunch of people that came. And there was another kind of I say kind of a mini boom in the early 1980s that brought a lot of interesting people to town. And then, of course, the big one in 2010 or so, where that was just nuts. It was just crazy. My parents were still living. My dad died in 2009, but my mother continued to live there for a couple more years until she moved down to Bismarck to live with us. But oh my goodness, that was just crazy. Man camps and just crazy. But I was just up there this last weekend. I met in Williston. I had left. I worked a couple of years working on Capitol Hill in Washington D.C. And I just kind of homesick. I just wanted to go back, so I went back and did some work there. And Rick showed up as a new radio news reporter there, so we got acquainted with each other. But one of the things that we worked on and was very rewarding was Fort Union Trading Post, and that is a very historic 200-year-old trading post that was just west of Williston.
I've been there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just and there was a group of people starting to get interested in doing something out there because it was nothing. It was just like wide open space. This was Fort Union, and so a lot of interest in kind of putting something up and doing some reconstruction of some of the sites. So Rick and I got involved in some of that.
Okay.
That's kind of how we got acquainted with each other, and then a few years later, Congress appropriated nearly $1 million to start reconstructing, partially reconstruct the fort, and so that was all just really cool. So anyway, last weekend, they have had an annual rendezvous, like 43rd year, I think, this year, and we were actually around there for the first, but it was Fur Trader and Trapper Rendezvous, where all these people would come and live in tents, and they'd shoot their rifles and demonstrate, hide tanning.
Yeah, got it.
And all these bead making and all these great things and all these traditions. So that's been going on for 43 years. And then this past weekend they had a celebration of the 60th anniversary of Fort Union being admitted to as a National Historic Site.
Oh, okay.
It became a National Historic Site 60 years ago.
Were there cavalry people dressed as cavalrymen?
Now, see, there's a trading post, and then about a mile away was the military post called Buford.
Okay.
Fort Union was never military, and that's kind of one of the cool things about that story. It was never military. It was peaceful trade of goods, furs and beads, and goods between the Native Americans and the traders, and trappers and traders. So that's a real beautiful story about that. And then when that kind of was on a decline, then some of the like wood and all that from Fort Union was moved down the road to build Fort Buford, which was kind of gearing up kind of in that Indian Wars era.
Okay. How are those trading posts named? Where did the name Buford and Union, where did that come from?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Fort Union, yeah, I'm not sure. I think Buford was named after a Civil War hero or something like that. That's Fort Buford is notable because that's where Sitting Bull surrendered. During the war era. He had fled to Canada, and then at some point he came back down and surrendered at Fort Buford. And the State Historical Society manages Fort Buford. And of course, the National Park Service manages Fort Union. But the State Historical Society has built a beautiful confluence center there, which is a kind of a modern museum that overlooks the pretty scenery. And the beautiful thing about that area is it's virtually unspoiled from 200 years ago, and part of that was set aside as kind of a military installation. Land was kind of like reserved for that, so no development was allowed.
Okay.
So it's pretty much unspoiled. I mean, you can still see what it was like back then, and it's one of the rare places in the country where it's pretty much unspoiled. And then that confluence of the Missouri and Yellowstone River is just the most beautiful part of. It's just beautiful.
Neat. Our viewers need to take a trip to Northwest North Dakota.
You do, yes. Sure. You can stop in Medora on the way and go to see that fabulous new Theodore Roosevelt library that's being dedicated next week. And a lot of interesting things. Newtown, just more east of Williston, has a fabulous Native American interpretive center too. It's just state of the art, just beautiful. So there's a lot to see
in the West. Right. Yeah. So we've covered the Black Gold era. And topic. So let's just move on to your particular talent, if you don't mind. Yes. In grade school, your talent in writing became apparent, evidently. So what occurred during that time to make you aware that you had a talent for writing?
Well, I don't know. I guess I always liked to read. Reading was encouraged when we were growing up. And I guess, I was just kind of had an affinity toward it. But I remember very vividly in third grade, it was around Christmas, and we were having a writing exercise, and our teacher gave us like 2 or 3 paragraph story and told us we had to write the last paragraph.
Yes.
It was our assignment. Just finish the story in however you want it. And it was something about an elf or something, Santa's elf. And I remember just writing and writing and writing. I got going, and everyone else was done. Like, I think most people wrote about 4 or 5 sentences, and I just kept going and going. And she kept saying, "Are you done? Who's not done?" It's like, I'm not done. So and we got it done, and everyone else read theirs. And then finally I read mine, and it was this long, story.
Descriptive.
And everybody clapped for me.
Neat.
So little positive reinforcement,
Yes. I like this. I can do that.
So,
did you continue then with your creative writing even at home? Did that inspire you?
Well, yeah, and I know, like in school, my other teachers, like in grade school, would give me like advanced. A couple of us, more advanced kids would get advanced writing assignments and things like that. And we just would do that. I remember in 7th grade, I spent a whole summer just reading books, and I remember I read A Tale of Two Cities and Les Miserables in 7th grade. I know, and it's like I just loved them so much. I don't think I could get through them right now. I think our attention spans are so much shorter these days.
Oh, that's for
So
sure.
evidently your parents and your teachers then must have encouraged you then.
Oh yeah, they did.
Mhm.
And then in high school, we had just a fabulous high school newspaper advisor. Oh, she was just the best. And so, a little group of us, put out the Coyote Howl, Williston High School, Coyote Howl. And I'll tell you what she taught us in high school. Kids graduating from college didn't know, we went on to school at UND, and it was just wonderful. So I really did have a leg up, and I got a journalism degree. And my first job out of college was working for Marilyn Haggerty of the Grand Forks Herald in the feature department. And Marilyn is legendary as a writer. She wrote, she wrote at the Grand Forks Herald for, well, I don't know. I know she came to Grand Forks with her husband, who was editor of the paper in the 1950s, and she died a year ago at age 99.
Oh,
she continued to write for the paper into her 90s, and she was a much beloved, just dear woman. And I learned so much from her and writing, and just how to put stories together and things like that. So that was another beautiful gift I got, was the ability to work with Marilyn Haggerty. But then so then I guess that was kind of like my business. It's like I guess I'm a writer. It's like
And
people pay people to write for them, because that was a good job for me. So
yes. So now I understand that you help others write.
Yeah.
Right. So what about, let's say this person said, I want to write this book. Where do I start?
Well, first I'll touch on some of the interesting jobs I've had. I worked at, like I mentioned, the Grand Forks Herald, and then I worked for the University of North Dakota Alumni Association and was editor of their newspaper called the Alumni Review. I worked for Basin Electric Power Cooperative and edited some of their magazines. I did, let's see, I worked for the North Dakota Water Foundation, Water Education Foundation, editing the North Dakota Water magazine, and for 13 years I was editor of North Dakota Horizons magazine.
Oh, yes.
How were you?
Yes, which I consider probably one of my best jobs ever, because it was good news, always good news. It was good stuff about North Dakota, which
It was a lovely magazine.
yes.
It was really lovely.
And
Andrea, did you edit differently for the different types of publications?
Oh yeah. There's more technical writing. Some of it is a little more scientific, but it's all kind of good news writing style. If you have a foundation of good news writing, you can adapt it to a lot of different things.
Okay.
I was a senior editor for the North Dakota Blue Book for 20 years, and I wrote for the State Bar Association Gavel magazine for many years. And so anyway, very
What's the North Dakota Blue Book?
It's put out by the Secretary of State's office, and it has it comes out every 2 years. It has a listing of all the legislators, all the office holders of every state agency, but then also in it is several chapters just about the state, things that no one else is writing about,
Does that come out annually?
Biennially, every 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then my final job here is I've been on the staff of Senator Kevin Kramer for the past 11 years, and I have just assisted others in giving them communication support, like reviewing their work and their stuff and everything before it's sent out, kind of checking everything over, and then also doing special writing, letters, greetings, congressional record tributes, and
did any of this type of writing come from learning by doing, or was this all covered when you were at UND?
Well, I guess the way I feel, and I'm seeing this played out, is when I was studying journalism, it was just print, print and broadcast.
Sure.
We learned AP style until we could recite it in our sleep. I mean, we knew news writing. This was pretty much all we did. Well, now, so then you have that basis, that general understanding. You can take it in all these different directions. You can take it, in a technical water publication, which I worked on, to a feature publication, to a political thing. You can do all kinds of things because you have a basic understanding of news style and how to write.
Sure.
Now I see that, communications is journalism. Writing is a very small part of it. So much of it is social media, all these different platforms, and all, understanding all of them and how they work. And I work with a lot of young people who don't have the just basic foundation of news writing, which I think if you learn news writing, you can do about anything. So,
well, sometimes now in schools, even having a basic foundation of writing, understanding the English language,
right?
Not necessarily covered.
Yeah, yeah. So I just think if you get that background, you can do really well. So yeah. So then on, to into our adult life, we lived in Oklahoma for a while and then moved back to Bismarck. And Rick had this interest in republishing a history book about the Williston area, Bloody Knife, Custer's favorite scout. It was written by a man who was a news reporter in Williston, good friends of Rick's, and he just really wanted to republish it, edited it a little bit. He had died several years before. So we got permission from his family, to get the, publishing rights of it and everything. So he was working on it, and we could not find, we were getting nowhere finding a publisher because, this is what we find. And I don't know if you've experienced it too, but, a lot of these writing projects of people, they're not going to sell 150,000 copies. You just aren't. Right. You have a small group of people who will have an interest in it. And, publishers want to make money. They want to sell books and make money.
So do booksellers.
Yeah.
So do authors.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And so finally we thought, okay, well then let's just figure this out ourselves. So we just, did all kinds of research and all kinds of investigation and kind of started our own little publishing company. So we
and there you have it, folks. That's how you do it.
1994, I think, and that book sold a lot of copies, and Rick made an audio tape of it, and then I went on and published a family Norwegian book that was in our family, and I wrote a book, a biography of Senator Milton Young called Mr. Wheat, and that was in like 2010, I think. And then, back then we wanted to have like an online access to selling books, and, websites and all that were just kind of coming into their own. So we thought, okay, we'll do a website, but if we're going to spend the money and do it, then let's make it available to other people who are also selling books. So then we started this website called dakotabooknet.com, and a lot of people who have, just smaller projects. They maybe one book they're going to put out in their whole life. They don't want to do a whole website, and they have their reasons for not wanting to do the larger groups like Amazon. It works for some, doesn't work for others. And so we just, I think it was in 2008. Yeah, I think we started that, and we've just been doing it ever since.
And there are many people who are grateful for that.
That's right, including the Pfeiffer sisters.
Yes. Well, we're gearing toward people who can't hop in their car and drive to the nearest bookstore, in 5 minutes. And there are a lot of people who, and it's getting worse and worse. Bookstores are becoming more and more endangered, fewer and fewer of them. So this is something that we've done. I think in my adult life, I've helped 25 book projects. We've worked on 25 book projects.
And just think what the future holds too for you.
I know, but just, both Rick and I are just really encouraging of people to just write their story, write their story. You don't need to take out a loan for $50,000. You just write it down on paper, make 40 copies, hand it out at your next family reunion. Just write it down.
For sure.
It's not that overwhelming. Just sit down and write.
Well, Andrea,
good advice. Thank you.
Yes, that is. And we are at the end of our broadcast. This has been phenomenal. You are very adept at covering wonderful spaces of history. Thank you.
Yes, well, it's been great visiting with you. Yes.
Thank you.
And viewers, thank you for joining us, and tune in next time and tell your friends or even your relatives about this 1950s fun chat.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.